Hey, my name's Jared. I'm an audio engineer here in Nashville, Tennessee. Today we're continuing on with our broadcast setup. We've just kind of been building out a template for your live broadcast stream. And last week we talked about compression, and this week I think we're going to talk about saturation. And this can be a little more subtle, or it can be not subtle at all, but we're going to try to use this in like really subtle ways. I'll exaggerate things so we can kind of hear what we're doing, but saturation or distortion, it's like coloration of a sound, and we really like this kind of stuff because I think we're just so used to like hearing records that were made with like all this vintage gear, and all that gear had a sound to it, and it left a fingerprint on everything that it touched. And you can overdo it for an effect. You can utilize the best of it to accomplish little things, and honestly it's kind of like it can be used as compression, just like brutal compression. So it can also help me with my dynamic range and stuff like that, because it's kind of like clipping in a way. And so we're just kind of investigate how I use that, and what kind of reasons that I choose to reach for that. So we're kind of going to go through here. We'll start with the drums like we always do. It's just really easy to hear what saturation is doing to drums. So if you remember, we had this parallel compression channel right here, and it's like a limiter, and it's just absolutely crushing the sound, and we kind of love what we did. And this is a great place to start because we can kind of get this sound from saturation as well. So let's check it out. So it's kind of got this splat, this explosiveness, and so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do that to my drum bus here, and I'll kind of mess around with this and show you kind of what tones we're getting here. And let me pull this drive down. We're going to go to a different one here. Let's go here. See how I'm getting that kind of splat out of the snare just with this saturation? Obviously there's filters and everything else. We'll talk about that in a second, but right now I just kind of want you to hear how we can get that splattiness just from saturating the drum. Also gives my kick drum more point. And obviously this would be way too aggressive of a setting to put on my drum bus, and we've talked about that. I kind of like to leave my drum bus like alone, maybe some EQ on it or whatever, but I don't want to like process my drums that heavy right here. So I would put this in parallel, and that's what we have going on over here. And in this situation, I don't like Benny. All right, Benny's talking to us. Let me let him out. All right, we're back. So I put it in parallel, and in this situation, I don't want to send my cymbals because I don't want my cymbals to get out of control here. So I'm just sending my shells. So I've got my kick bus, my snare bus, and my tom bus all going to this distortion bus. Let's hear what we're doing there. So I'm getting all that smack and attack out of it and everything else like that. So then I would just like, again, I don't like doing this in solo. I'm just doing it in solo for the sake of this video, but I would just blend this into taste, and where I'm starting to get some of that attention I want. So let's see. Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So bring on the thunder, bring on the waves. My eyes are fixed on the one who saves. Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So bring on the thunder, bring on the waves. My eyes are fixed on the one who saves. Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going. So I'm kind of listening for that length on that snare there, and a little bit of that front end on the kick that it's giving me, and I pull it in and out, see if I'm hearing it. I want to be subtle with it. I do have some EQ going on afterwards. It was just kind of bringing up some of these frequencies I didn't dig. So sometimes I'll EQ after it and just kind of get what I want. Let's see, on this bass, we were using this tube here, tube distortion here, they call it, harmonic saturation, whatever you want to say, to kind of give me a little more character, a little more poke on the bass. And I'm going to do that over here as well. I'm going to add a little bit more. I like this Reddi, this Red DI from Kush. It's mimicking a tube DI, and I can kind of get some drive out of it here. So let's get the bass and the drums working together here. I'm going to turn the bass up so you can hear it. Just kind of gives me more of those mids to help that bass and help the finger come through a lot more and stuff. So I'll kind of drive this level so you can hear where it starts kicking in. So there, it's like pretty overdriven, right? So maybe around in here. It's just helping my bass have a little more definition, stick out a little bit more. You can do that even more, you know, if we're wanting a lot more finger. We can just grab one of these. Again, I would just put it on another channel so I can blend it in because I don't really like these mix knobs, but you can see how I can start getting more of that finger and that string up in here just with some saturation. So kind of like where we were before that. I'll take this off. Let's bring these keys in. Kind of like using tape saturation on keys. There's also, you know, I used to listen to jazz, and when I listen to these old jazz records, I feel like every time the piano articulates, I can kind of like hear this kind of like dip, like in intonation. It's almost from like the wow and flutter of the tape, I feel like, and I love that about like those old recordings and stuff. So I kind of like utilize that here with some tape, and also tape saturation. Again, it can help with my dynamics. It gives me a little more warmth, kind of just has a thing to it, and so I like putting that on my keys. feel like it also just kind of shifts my focus a little bit. Like the keys are kind of existing down here, and then I turn that on, and it's just focusing it a little more up here in the mids, giving me a little more poke in that way, just kind of just focusing the sound where the saturation. Dig that. Here's a guitar. I'm gonna go where he's playing maybe something a little more. So on guitar, there's so much saturation going on in the amp and everything else already. A lot of times it doesn't need more, and maybe it does. I really dig this SSL plugin by Plugin Alliance here. They have this THD knob, and this thing is just awesome to crank on guitars. I mean, it's all the way up. Here's where it is normally, and I'll just bring it in as it goes. I just love that saturation. It's just like this little extra spice on it that I love, yeah, it's great. So I'll pull this in and out. Also, there's noise on this as well, so I'm always pulling my noise out. Same on this like tape saturation here. There's this noise level. Hate it. I always get rid of it. I don't want noise. Here we go. Check this out. On and off. I almost feel like my guitars get wider. Just hit the mic. My guitars almost feel like they're kind of doing this, like pushing out a little bit, and just feel like they're just fuller. It's pretty subtle, but I dig it, man. It's so nice. All right, let's bring everything in. Now let's talk about the vocal. I like this Saturn plugin. I like that I can do bands, and we're going to copy this over so I can show you my process here. Let's start fully mixed. On this, what I like to do is I like to solo this band, and I like to just turn my speakers down and pull this around until it's just like not necessarily the sweet spot of the vocal, but where I feel like my vocal's really speaking through my monitors. So up there, it's kind of shrill and thin. If I get a little too far down this way, it kind of gets this like, I don't know, woody feeling to me or whatever. Around in here, I like, it's just like coming through my speakers. Obviously, it sounds like a telephone vocal right now because I'm just soloing up this band. But then what I'll do is there's a bunch of different saturation modules in here. I can do tube, I can do tape, and I'll just audition them. I'll crank my saturation and I'll just kind of go through them until the one I sounds the best, kind of doing the thing that I want. That made my vocal jump out. I dig that. So then I'm going to come back over here where I landed. And then I'll just drop this mix knob all the way down and I'll just slowly blend it in. I don't really want to hear like saturation. I just want to use it as like my vocal just coming a little more forward. I'll just pull that in and out until I feel like I'm not necessarily noticing it, but it's giving my vocal a little more.
Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So bring on the thunder, bring on the waves. My eyes are fixed on the one who said.
Just little tricks, just trying to get that vocal a little more forward, maybe have a little more thing to it. There's other ways I can do it. I'll do it in parallel. Just kind of, every song is different, every vocalist is different, and it just really depends on how it all plays out. So then my mix bus, the common thing on my mix bus is some tape saturation again here. I'll pull this up and I'll go through just these different tapes and just see which one I like. And I'll pull this in and out and kind of see what it's doing here.
Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So bring on the thunder, bring on the waves. My eyes are fixed on the one who saves. You've been faithful, and I'm so grateful. How good you are, how good you've been, how good you're gonna be.
Man, I just really feels like it just like opens up, really sweetens my top end, and just it's subtle, but it's nice, and I dig it, and it just like it really helps. I like it. And yeah, that's just like some few examples of like where I'll use saturation and how it can help me. Let me go through. I'll turn all of the stuff we did off and then compare it to everything on. How about that? Here's the distortion off, and this is on.
Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So bring on the thunder, bring on the waves. My eyes are fixed on the one who saves.
Okay, that's cool.
Walking on water as I'm singing now, with your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So bring on the thunder, bring on the waves. My eyes are fixed on the one who saves.
Yeah, but that's just a little intro on saturation and how you can utilize it and why and where. And if you have any other more questions, let me know. And yeah, we'll see you next time.